Hi everyone, Dennis here. The most important decision a President of the United States will ever make is whether to commit the lives of the young men and women who serve this country to battle, to war. When a president determines that the country should go to war, he's making a decision that's not just of consequence to himself politically, but it's of consequence to the lives of millions of people, and in particular, the lives of the people who are on the battlefield. How will those who aspire to the presidency deal with this power? I think we can already look because we've had an opportunity, each of us, to make a determination, as the president did, whether or not our troops should go into battle. In October of 2002, I was called upon to make a decision as to whether or not to approve or authorize the war against Iraq. I did a lot of research. I took a lot of time. I spoke to many people. I read many reports. And based on that, I was able to determine that Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, with al-Qaeda's role in 9/11, that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, and that Iraq had no intention nor a capability of attacking the United States. If I had been president at that time, I would not have sent our troops into battle. If I had been president at that time, I would have reached out to the United Nations and asked the world community for assistance in being able to determine the actual status of Iraq and worked with the world community to help avert a war. I'm not the only member of Congress who's running for president right now. There are many other members who are running for president who had to make the same decision, but they came to a different conclusion. They came to the conclusion that America should go to war, that America should commit its troops, that we should ask those troops to put their lives on the line, that we should spend hundreds of billions of dollars in prosecution of a war. Today we have found that every case that was made for the war was false. That Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction, wasn't trying to attack the United States, had nothing to do with 9/11, and on and on and on. And many of the people who voted for that war are now asking for you to consider them as the next president of the United States. Think about it a moment. If the most important decision that Congress had to make in a generation to send our troops to war was made by an individual who wants to be president of the United States, wouldn't it make sense, in retrospect, to measure that decision against that person's aspirations and to ask yourself, what's the consequences for the nation if someone who did not have the judgment to avert the war back in 2002 would ascend to the Oval Office with the same type of thinking? I've demonstrated not just a willingness to stand up and to go against the tide, but I've demonstrated an ability to go deep in analyzing exactly what's going on in the moment. I led 125 Democrats who voted against the Iraq War resolution. Unfortunately, numbering among those Democrats who voted against the Iraq War resolution, we didn't find any of the members who were in Congress at the time and are now running for president. And there's others who were not in Congress at the time and are now running for president who continue to vote to support the funding of the war. They're simultaneously saying, well, they don't agree with the war now, but they're voting to fund it. Think about it. If you are against the war, do you vote to fund it? If you are against the war, why did you vote to authorize it? Those who are seeking the Oval Office have a real responsibility to the American people to be able to demonstrate a capacity for judgment, for foresight, for clarity, for courage, for a willingness not to go with the crowd, but a willingness to look for oneself at the evidence and make the determination then whether or not America must commit its young men and women to war. Today, there are over 3,000 U.S. casualties. There are over 650,000 innocent Iraqis who have lost their lives. It's not just a matter of President Bush's decision. It's a matter of the decision of every man and woman in the United States Congress who voted to authorize that war. It's possible for someone to make a mistake. But when someone aspires to be President of the United States, they take on a higher responsibility. They have to pass a higher bar in order to claim the country's confidence and trust. I submit to you that I've met that test. And I ask you to look thoughtfully as to whether any of the other candidates who aspire to be President of the United States have met that test. Thank you.
We believe everything that they tell us. They're gonna kill us, so we gotta kill them first. But I remember a commandment, thou shalt not kill. How much is that soldier's life worth? And what happened to peace on earth? And the bewildered herd still believing everything we've been told from our birth. Hell, they won't lie to me, not on my own damn TV. But how much is a liar's word worth? And what happened to peace on earth?